Greetings, YouTube. My wife has a coworker that's a fan of penguins, and a few weeks ago I happened upon a little penguin figure about yay big at a thrift shop. I picked it up and she brought it to work and anonymously just left it on the person's desk as a kind of a humorous aside. And then the other day I happened to be at the same thrift shop and I saw a couple more penguins. I restrained myself. I did not purchase them. But it got me thinking about penguins. Specifically about penguins that are about yay big. And it occurred to me that, a penguin about that big would be an interesting topper for a wand. Now imagine for a moment that an adventuring party finds a wand. Black wood, say ebony, and the tip is a penguin carved out of ebony with ivory inlays for the white bits. Maybe some ruby eyes just for fun, or blue eyes, something like that, sapphire. Just a little color to throw in there. It's magic, of course, and it's transmutation. So they know that it's a transmutation wand, and they know that it's got a penguin on the tip. Well, this particular wand, purpose-built now, because it does have a penguin on the tip, does one thing and one thing only. It casts a polymorph spell, very specific. It applies to self only, so the caster using the wand, either we'll say it's an arcane wand, so whatever arcane caster has the polymorph school in their list can cast this spell, use this wand without difficulty. It allows them to turn themselves into a penguin. And we're going to be generous, and it's going to be a small penguin. So, like maybe emperor penguin size. Excuse me. And it has a fairly long duration, because the current polymorph spell, I think at 3.5 in Pathfinder, is measured in minutes, I believe it is. I think it's minutes. I didn't really thought that was long enough. I think I did 10 minutes per level, which is a whole lower than 3.0, if I remember correctly. So now you have a wizard that can turn themselves into a penguin whenever they so choose. And because it's a purpose-built spell, very specific, you might even want to make this thing be usable X times per day. Not needing charges, because it would be difficult to recharge it because you probably don't have a specific polymorph self into penguin spell. And let's face it, if you use 3 times a day, it's going to be hard to abuse this. It turns you into a penguin. Now it's going to give you a good swim speed. I would give you a bonus to swim, probably a +8, because essentially you're a natural swimmer in this form. Give you a good speed. Is there a Pathfinder stats for a penguin? I would be shocked if someone hasn't done some. Maybe in one of the Illyria Press books, they did an entire book dedicated to the Arctic and aquatic environment. So there may be one in there. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. Or somewhere, maybe in the 3.5 Arctic book, whose name escapes me at the moment. And it gives you some bonuses against frost, cold, because you're a penguin and you're well insulated. You have a very slow movement speed because you're doing with your little flippers. And yes, penguins, in fact, do have knees. In fact, if you look at an x-ray of a penguin, there are legs scrunched up inside. There are legs in there. All the bones are present. They're just now subsumed inside the body cavity. It's really quite fascinating. So what do you do with this? How applicable is it? Now, if you have a campaign that's in an aquatic or semi-aquatic environment, better yet, in an aquatic or semi-aquatic environment that's in the cold or Arctic region, that's most applicable. If you're running a campaign in an Arabian setting, not quite as useful, but might be an interesting treasure to find in that environment anyway, just because how did it get here? So you have a very specific wand that does a very specific thing that lets a person do a very useful form under certain circumstances. Look very innocuous under any circumstance. A penguin is not a threat to anybody. Of course, it's going to mean you're probably going to be hunted down by sea lions and polar bears and what have you that do spot you, or even sharks. I think there are penguins that live in shark-infested waters as well. Because there are penguins that not just in the Arctic. There are penguins in temperate zones as well. And I'm fascinated by this idea. Just the idea of this very purpose-built wand. Of course, you could just find a black wand with transmutation magic, no little penguin on the tip, so that the person has no clue what it is. And you could say that someone was trying to make a standard polymorph spell wand, and they failed. And so it's not quite a cursed item, but it is much less utility than an actual polymorph self-spell, which is incredibly versatile and useful. Everybody loves that spell for good reason. It's a great spell. And that version, I think it makes a good shot for like someone's first attempt at making a wand when they roll really badly on the crafting check and you get a cursed item. Or maybe they miss the curse point by 1 point and the GM's just feeling mischievous and throws this wand at them instead of the polymorph self-spell wand that they wanted. So tell me, would you use this wand? How would you use this wand? As a GM, where would you put it? As a player, what would you do with it? What kind of versatility could you take out of a wand that only lets you assume one very innocuous form? Of course, you would be heck on fish.